What's up, everyone? We got Niko, we got Griffin here today. When was the last time you were on a podcast?
Man, I think the last time I was on a podcast, that was when Jalen was just starting, and that's where we talked about naming him Beans.
Was that long ago?
Oh wait, no. That's okay. The last one I was on was where we were talking about medieval torture.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, Griffin makes all of our thumbnails, and I gotta say, the Gallium thumbnail is pretty spicy. It's a pretty good looking thumbnail, at least so far. We have another alternate that I guess you'll probably be working on today, but I'm pretty excited about it. So Gallium is something we've talked about on the podcast for several weeks now at this point. The video was originally supposed to come out about a week and a half ago, and then it was supposed to come out last weekend, and then it was supposed to come out today. It's still not out. But that being said, it's very close to being done, and I think it's going to be a very good video. I'm pretty happy with it. I finished all the effects on the actual little short that I made earlier this week. Daniel, going into this week, Daniel still hadn't had a full rough cut of it yet, and the assembly was over an hour long.
Oh my god!
And it was like, oh my god, all these scenes, and because of that, we hadn't shot any of our talking head segments for the video yet, which actually we still haven't. The plan is to shoot those scenes today, or basically it's like kind of the glue holding all the segments together. And we wanted to kind of shoot that once we had a better idea of what the actual video was going to look like, to kind of like tie all those moments together. So here you are getting it early. We haven't even shot that yet. That's today's plan. So it can't come out today.
Yeah, it's been a journey to do that. We got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about in this podcast. We're definitely going to get into Gallium a little bit. We're going to talk about what it's been like trying to shift away from Adobe over the past 2 years. You guys remember that salty Adobe podcast that we actually did 2 years ago, which were actually pretty transformative and felt very healthy, actually. I think it was healthy for us, and it was healthy for a lot of other creators to like rant and like, I don't know, be able to like publicly just say how much we were disliking the software.
My feelings on the matter have changed a little bit since I actually met some of the people working on the After Effects team.
Well, here's the thing. My issue is not with people working the After Effects team. My issue is with Adobe, which, yeah,
of course,
there's a little bit of overlap.
But my point is that, like, I didn't realize 95% of Adobe's business has nothing to do with Creative Cloud.
Yeah. Which is one of the many reasons why I don't like Adobe.
Like, they have such a small percentage of the company actually working on stuff that consumers use, like Photoshop and After Effects. Like, the Photoshop team is by far the largest team. They've got like under 100 people on it. After Effects is like less than 15 people.
Yeah.
And then all the other programs have like maybe that many people combined.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So, and it's like, because they're all doing, I forget the word for it. What's it like? Like, it's not cloud services, but like corporate type services.
Oh, okay.
There's a word for that.
Like enterprise.
Enterprise.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff like that. And
Is it stuff like e-signing? Like
maybe, yeah, like Adobe Acrobat.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Shout out to Adobe Acrobat.
It's been a little while since I actually like was hearing about all that, but yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah. If anything, Niko, I think you've become more and more anti-Adobe over the last couple years.
Yeah, well, it feels like a right time to go back to talk about this, because there's been a couple other videos that have been put out by other creators very recently, like talking about issues with Adobe. Most notably, James Lee Animations. He does amazing animations, and he's had a lot of rants about Adobe. And then just recently put out like a full cartoon that he did without any closed source programs. It was all open source programs.
Oh, whoa,
for this animation. But like 2 years ago, we had 2 podcast episodes, which were inspired by you, Wren.
I remember.
Wren was having a hard time with After Effects, and it was giving him a lot of crap. And honestly, in a very valid and justified way, I think you went out and you expressed your frustrations. Because it wasn't the first time that you had frustrations. We've all had frustrations, right? It was
the first time I ever like publicly was like bashing it. I gave a very rare swear word.
So we had been using Adobe Premiere, Adobe After Effects, Photoshop, all that kind of stuff. And Premiere and After Effects especially were very buggy. And one of the things is like, when I was at least growing up and starting to use professional software like into school. I mean, Adobe back then cost like $1,000. People are like, you're paying that money because it's professional software, meaning, they're expecting you to be using it on a job and, you're making money with it. And it's a big deal if it crashes. It should be stable. It's professional software. That's why it's so expensive. So that's an expectation that I held and I still hold within me. If it's professional software, it shouldn't be losing you money because it ruins your work. Mm-hmm. And that had happened so much by that point with our Adobe software that the fact that it had actively ruined days and days and days of our work over and over, combined with the fact that we were paying over $50 a month for like 6 licenses or 12 licenses. I can't remember. We were paying a lot of money for it too. To be paying that much money for software to be that buggy, and then for all the features to be features that were kind of marketing features and not features that made the software better for the people that are paying for it, combined with one last thing, which was very subtle and was kind of just relevant to me, which is that, Blackmagic Design came out with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. Fantastic camera. The best camera you could buy for like $1,000. Opens the door to indie filmmakers worldwide, right? I'm like, this is everything I would have wanted when I was getting into the game. And Adobe refused to put support for Blackmagic Raw into Adobe Premiere because they considered Blackmagic a competitor. And for the world's leading video editing program to snub the chance of indie filmmakers to actually use their equipment correctly in that software because they're having corporate politics bullshit, that was a sign I need to get away from Adobe. I need to do my best to get away from Adobe because I don't like giving my money to people or corporations that I don't like. A lot of people are cool with being like, I'm going to complain about this company, but I'm still going to buy this from that company. It's like, no. You can't do that. You got to spend your money where it actually matters. Otherwise, your words are meaningless.
Well, at this point, everyone in the studio has at least transitioned to DaVinci Resolve for editing over Premiere Pro.
So that was our big shift.
Including me, including Daniel, including everyone.
Yep, everyone. We've pushed away from Jordan Allen, but we're making him.
Well, he almost never actually edits anything. So anytime he edits something, it's because he's making a little 30-second short for a video or something, or some sort of satisfying render, and he's doing sound design.
Yep, that's very true. So we did shift the whole studio away from Adobe Premiere. That was one of our big moves. And that was huge. And we did that 2 years ago. We just committed. We spent 2 weeks where we just forced it to happen. And I know my shirt is very relevant, isn't it?
Oh, God. Dude.
It's one of my favorite shirts that we did. By the way, we have shirts for sale right now. The Sims. All your favorite VFX Sims on a t-shirt. It is a sweet shirt. It's a great play on words, too. So anyways, we made the push to DaVinci Resolve 2 years ago. And for the past 2 years, that's been our main editing platform. And it's been really wonderful, actually. I love
it's a great program.
DaVinci Resolve.
It's really good.
Yeah. I found it to be incredibly stable. I find the features to be awesome. I find it to be modern. I find it to be smart in how it's laid out. It's everything that I wanted Premiere to become, and Premiere never did.
There is still one thing missing from Resolve that I don't think it's ever going to be able to get. That was, in my opinion, the best thing about Premiere. And it was being able to select a clip in your edit timeline, right-click, and send to After Effects. And it would load up an After Effects project file at the correct timing, the in and out points of that video clip, while still keeping the actual raw video clip. Because a lot of the times, we would shoot something, and in the same video file, get a clean plate, at the end of the take or something like that. But using Resolve, you have to export those clips from Resolve and then import it into After Effects. And that's not that big of a deal. That's how we used to always have to do it before Premiere, when Final Cut was a thing and all that stuff. And it's not that big of a deal, but being able to just right-click, send something to After Effects, you automatically have your project settings ready to go. And if you need a different moment from that same video file, you can just get it without having to go back to Resolve and re-export a shot, which is something I was encountering a lot on this Gallium video doing the short film. There's 10 VFX shots in the little short film. It's a minute long. And I had a couple times I had to go back to Resolve, literally open up the entire program, go into my project file and then into my timeline to find the clip and then export it. I miss that.
It's those little things, those teeny tiny little things that let you just kind of smooth over stuff. And it saves you 45 seconds a minute.
Now,
but then that 45 seconds to a minute adds up when you do that.
It does.
Like 100 times a day.
Yeah. Now, granted, Resolve's answer to that is like, well, we have Fusion. Why do you even need to use After Effects? And Niko, you've gotten really into Fusion.
I have gotten really into Fusion. Fusion got me back into node compositing because once again I was committing to like the whole like I don't want to use After Effects, I don't want to use Photoshop, I don't want to use Premiere. I still do use After Effects once in a while because After Effects is a different program than Fusion.
Yeah.
And there are things that it does well, but Resolve does exactly what Premiere does, and you do not need to use
Yeah.
Premiere anymore. But the Fusion is it's all node-based editing. It's a lot like Nuke. In fact, I think it predates Nuke. And it's one of the earlier compositors that was out
That's
was out
true.
there.
Yeah. It just kind of stayed very, very small time for
It did.
a long time.
It did. And Blender has a lot of similar compositing tools now that Fusion has, and Nuke as well. And so I made the commitment to learn. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get back to node-based compositing, which is definitely a different thought process than like layers, which is what After Effects has. And it's been great. Like, don't get me wrong, After Effects is still better for some things. You know, certain tools are better at doing things than other tools, right? But Fusion's been wonderful, and just like learning node-based compositing has helped open my mind a little bit more into like that world of visual effects and understanding how that stuff all works together, how you can script things out. You know, when we had Fenner here for that year, he really helped, open my eyes a little bit more to node-based compositing as well. So it's been really good, really great. But at this point, we still have a couple Adobe licenses, mainly because Griffin uses Photoshop for all the thumbnail work, and some of the guys here in the office still use After Effects. And that's basically what we use Adobe for.
What we mostly use Adobe for is logging each other out of it. Because we have 3 licenses, and each license can be on 2 different computers at once. And we've got around 7, maybe 8 computers that use Adobe every week, which means that someone gets logged out every week. And for the last 2 weeks, that has been me for some reason. I've literally been logged out at least 6 times in the last week and a half.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Which isn't a big deal. Again, it's like first world problems, right? It's like, okay, I have to log back in and then choose someone else to log out on my behalf. So,
I mean, we could get, more licenses, but like, once again, it's that whole but Adobe, Adobe lobbied Congress to copyright art styles.
What?
Yeah. Adobe
Art styles?
lobbied Congress to copyright art styles, to pass a law saying like, oh, this is that person's style, you can't use it.
But now they're doing Firefly?
You know what? I can kind of see what they were cooking with that, because in their like Firefly and their generative create mode, there are like style presets that you can mix and match. So I don't know the thought process. Like, this is the first time I'm hearing about this, but I have a feeling that like they were trying to copyright like photorealism so that like other people couldn't like, use art style names in similar plugins.
Yeah, it's just, that's such a corporate overstep and like such an artist unfriendly step from a company that makes artist tools. That just, it's once again, it's one of those things like, what? How are these guys still getting money from us? It's like, ugh. So, anyways,
man.
but there's a good question there. Like, what do we need? Why do we still use Adobe? Well, there isn't really a replacement for After Effects yet. And then there's Photoshop. And I'm going to kick it over to you 1 second here, because Griffin, because I want to talk about one thing here, which is when you look at using new software, like we've used After Effects for decades. Like, when you look at using new software, there's that sudden like barrier of like, oh, this is all new. How do I do the things that I'm fast and I'm good at? But often buried within that clunky process of learning something new is a chance to relearn a workflow that you haven't revisited in 10 or 15 or 20 years. Like you mentioned the send to Adobe feature in Premiere or send to After Effects. There are actually tools in Resolve built for quickly sending out your shots to other visual effects programs.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. Really. But here's the thing. It's like, you don't have to learn it until you have to learn it, right? It's not until you sit down and you force yourself. There's like a VFX round trip option where you can basically select a clip. And assuming you have all your color signs set up correctly in Resolve and you have your file set up correctly, it will re-encode it into like an EXR sequence. But if you have it set up correctly, that should basically be a lossless process. You'll kick it out to a folder with everything set up. You'll still need to, I think, open your After Effects file and import the clips, but they'll all be properly trimmed, properly set up, ready to go, just create a new
But
project.
it's still
import it.
exporting an EXR sequence?
Mhm.
Well, what's the point?
Well, here's the thing. What's the point exactly until you look at new workflows once again? You're and like this is one thing I've done is like there's an EXR format that's better compression than like Red Raw and other like really nicely compressed formats. DWAB. It's as lossless as all those compression systems. It's got full color space and color science support for floating point and all these different formats. So at the end of the day, if you're converting your footage into a DWAB file, an EXR DWAB file,
I've never said that before. I've always said DWAB compression.
like
But for the first time today, I said DWAB.
but it's it doesn't matter. Like if assuming you have proper color space, what's all this color space BS I'm talking about?
Is it exporting the entire original video file and only giving you?
No, it's just giving you what you want to.
But that's what I don't want.
But what if you want handles? You can tell it to give you handles too.
But I want the entire file.
Then tell it to give you
without rendering a new file.
I know, but yes, you will have to render a new file because it's not within the Adobe ecosystem. But
this was really great when we were using red files a lot, and by red I mean like the camera.
Yeah, because you'd import the red directly into the.
And because red shoots raw images, so you can change stuff like the ISO, the white balance, the tint, without actually editing anything from the video, or rather, without. Normally when you shoot video, those settings are baked in. You cannot change the white balance. It's just, you can do some color grading to kind of change it on top of it, like frosting on a cake, but you can't actually change the ingredients of the cake. With RAW, you can. And in After Effects, you could change those RAW settings. So being able to edit your red files in Premiere and then send it to After Effects and be like, oh, you know what? This shot needs a little bit of a warmer white balance on it. And I can just change that directly in the comp, instead of having to like re-export.
No, that was amazing. And that was one of the most amazing things about Red Raw. Because that opened my mind to like, oh, this is what modern like filmmaking is supposed to be like. And you're shooting on a camera that's shooting into like an H.264 file and log, and you're like, what's wrong with this? But now, once again, like now that I've learned color science and I've learned how to use ACES or DaVinci Resolve, manage color workflows, it's the same thing as Red Raw. Right? It's the same thing as when you get a properly color managed EXR file, you can change the ISO and you can change the white balance. You can do all the same things you do with a RAW file, assuming your color science is set up correctly.
And, well, okay, to a degree. If the original camera wasn't shooting RAW, then like...
Well, what I'm getting at here is like you could take a red code RAW file and you could make an EXR file of that red code RAW file. And as long as you're doing the appropriate color space handling, that EXR file will be exactly as flexible and adjustable as the red raw file.
Okay, fair play. Sure.
Which back in the day it was not like that. And that's one of those things where, like now you'd have to learn your color science workflows, and you have to take the time to learn new workflows and figure out, okay, this is what I used to do over here. It was easy, but it's not easy to do that anymore. Is there a different method that gives me the same result that's now more modern or easier? And these are the kind of things that learning new programs give me an excuse to do. To go back and be like, okay, here's my workflow I've had for a decade. Is there a new, more modern way of doing it that's actually faster and more efficient that I just don't know about?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't use Premiere on a lot of TV shows. They use what's that other editing? Avid. It's like, and they make it work. And they're not sitting there having somebody just grind out exports waiting 10 minutes, exports waiting 10 minutes. Like, there's still professionals there just kicking shots out using scripts and things like that. So what's their magic? But that's been a nice thing with Premiere. But Austin, or not Austin, sorry, Griffin, I was going to turn it over to you because you're a big Photoshop dude, and you've been in that Photoshop ecosystem for a long time. And somebody asked, have you tried anything other than Photoshop? What are your thoughts out there? Is it worth trying anything other than Photoshop?
I think it's, part of why I still use Photoshop is because I still haven't found something to, I still haven't really found the true replacement. Like I've tried Clip Studio Pro for digital art, and I find like for a while it seemed better than Photoshop for digital painting and drawing, but then Photoshop updated and it was it included all the features that used to be like kind of exclusive to Clip Studio Pro.
What about like GIMP?
I find GIMP is like, and this is my experience, I could be totally off.
I've never
on this,
used
but
GIMP.
GIMP felt like a slightly less powerful version where all of the buttons were in the wrong place.
Yeah, that's what GIMP felt like to me too.
And the thing is, like, someone just brought up Illustrator.
I see this Kid Pick Studio supports 64-bit EXR. It's over.
like no
64-bit.
no hate to the people who work on Illustrator, but I've always hated Adobe Illustrator. I've always found it to be super unintuitive, but kind of similar to what you were getting into about back in the good old days of like, the Adobe Creative Suite, not even Creative Cloud days, where it was just like, oh, well, this is the professional one. I would always use Adobe Illustrator because it was like, oh, well, this is the best one, but I never really liked it. And then recently I got into Figma because it's free and better.
Ooh, it's a combination that's almost impossible to pass up.
It's free and better. It's like easier to use. And I'm still using Photoshop because I have a ton of like pretty much exactly the issue you're talking about, where it's like, man, there's too many little problems with this for this to cost this much money. But it's still, in my experience, is like has the best tools. So what was the one? Serif? Was it Affinity? Like I'm very open to recommendations for other photo editing software, and specifically one of my biggest issues with Photoshop is the layer system, because the amount of times I wish I could, like, maybe there is a plugin or something, but I wish there was node-based photo editing, or I wish there was something more akin to a DAW with like effects buses, because the number of times I have to make like 5 duplicates of a levels layer because I want it to like affect, these 2 layers, but not these 3, and then everything below that. So I have to make 5 of the same levels layer and then adjust it 5 times when I wish I could just make like, effects bus 1 and then link like 5 things to effects bus 1.
One more rant about Adobe. Do you want to tell this part, Wren, since you introduced the idea?
No, I mean, it's just like there was one time where I was like, okay, you know what? I had the Adobe Creative Suite subscription several years ago at this point, but we started having it pretty regularly and officially at Corridor. And I was like, okay, I don't need mine anymore. I'm going to cancel it. And they like wouldn't let me cancel it. And it was some ridiculous thing. I was like, what? I ended up having to just cancel my card that they had on file. That was the only way to get out of it.
Yeah.
Which was ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And I haven't signed back up for Adobe since.
Yeah, they're getting in a little bit of trouble with the FTC for that, because they purposely try to hide the cancellation, and they purposely try to obscure that you're buying a yearly contract that you're paying monthly for, which is still kind of BS. It's a subscription service. It's totally arbitrary. You can just cut off access when somebody cancels their subscription.
Yeah.
It's so aggressively, and screw it, I'm gonna swear. It's so aggressively a fuck you to the consumers. It's so aggressively a fuck you to their customer base. Like, why would you let somebody do that? Even if they make a nice piece of software, screw it. Spend a week to learn a different piece of software, and don't let them say fuck you, because that is a fuck you. Okay, I'm done swearing. Thank you for listening. I promise I won't do it anymore. You can un-earmuffs your kids now.
Like your kids are listening to this to begin with.
But it makes me mad, because it is somebody there just like giving you the finger, being like, deal with it. Yeah. It's crazy. I can still open After Effects and have it crash when I import like an image sequence. Even that's all I do.
Really?
It's still
that
crashes.
happened to you?
Mm-hmm. It happened recently when what was I doing? Oh yeah, I needed to export like an image sequence to make a Gaussian splat for gray matter. Straight up just importing the image sequence. It's like, bleh! It's just because like something else was using the GPU, or some like subroutine was failed, whatever. But still, it's like, really, guys? It's still that bad? But yeah, this is just another encouragement for everybody to try to learn new software. And that's just part of life. You have to learn new software. If you just try to use one piece of software for your entire professional career, you're not going to go very far. You need to always be ready to switch software and learn new things. And so this is encouragement, and an encouragement for you guys to also tell everybody else to do the same. Let's get some competition for Adobe. Yeah. Oh, wait. Okay. 200 subscribers until 10 million. So I don't know.
Though?
I don't know where you guys are getting that. We have the actual official number on our YouTube channel.
Okay, so a little bit of a preamble. If you've been paying attention to the podcast lately, we've been on this journey to try to hit 10 million subscribers on the Corridor Digital YouTube channel, not to be confused with the Corridor Crew YouTube channel, which is our main channel that has fewer subscribers. And we started by basically having everyone in the studio create 2 YouTube shorts from an old Corridor video. And then for an entire month, we're going to release a new YouTube short every single day. in the hopes that that'll push us over the subscription mark to hit 10 million. And we only needed another 30,000 subscriptions. And then we posted the first couple YouTube shorts and we lost subscribers. Something I don't think any of us really anticipated. And then for weeks going into this challenge, we had still not made any subscribers. We're basically breaking even every day. We gain
truly
some, but
flat.
also lose some every single day. Until last weekend, when we had a couple shorts start doing really well. And sure enough, we got a bunch of subscribers just in a few days.
22,000. Yeah.
It's quite a few.
It's crazy. It's just like negative, negative, zero, negative, zero, negative for like 20 days straight. And then suddenly, boom, here's 22,000 subscribers and here's 10 million views. So, what's the lesson here? Who knows? I guess perseverance and keep trying.
Which going into, like, I totally expected. I honestly, legitimately expected we probably won't see much until we just get one random one that does really well, and that'll push us over. And that ended up kind of being what happened.
Yeah.
We still haven't technically pushed over yet.
We still haven't technically pushed over. So, people here are saying, you guys are only 200 away. So I hate to say it, but all those live counting sites are quite a bit off. I think what they do is they get a daily update on your subs that YouTube will give them, and then they're approximating the rate at which you're gaining subs based on the previous day. So we're actually slowing down right now because we're coming off that spike from the weekend. And so a lot of these sites that are approximating our sub count are doing so by looking at like the numbers we had over the weekend and extrapolating that through today. It's not accurate. We currently have 9,900,090. Oh, sorry. It's hard to read big numbers slowly. 9,996,679 subscribers.
Dang.
That is our actual accurate count right
So one of the prediction sites or live counter sites was sitting at 9 straight nines across the
Wow,
board.
straight nines.
So check this out. And it got up to 9 and I'm recording this and we're like, any moment.
Oh!
It went from straight 9s across the board to 996,666.
That's a great, like, we were
was
thinking
like,
about calling this video, we, for some reason, Corridor can't reach 10 million subscribers. And if that was the beginning of the video, it's like 9999 9996. It would be the perfect way to start the video.
So I think because it couldn't hit 10 million, I think it was some sort of major threshold that it does actually track. And I think it's at the point or the 100,000, like every time that digit gets updated. Because if you go to the YouTube channel, it says 9.99 million. And you can't expand it to see the exact number. Mm-hmm. So I think the tracking website is just kind of like seeing that and just trying to interpolate and guess up to it. And then when its counter goes over, it actually checks and it's like, oh, it still hasn't gone over yet. Reset back to where it was. And it'll just do that over and over again. I don't know. That's my hypothesis. Hypothesis.
Thanks, Brendan. I'm glad you like our content. Yeah, it's but Griffin's Ubisoft Early Access Matrix video is still keeping the train rolling. We're still pulling in subs.
Dude, that was so surreal. For chat, so I'm not an editor. Like I'm not an editor. I'm not a video guy, and so I was really uncertain. I ended up picking a backup idea. I did 3. I made 3 shorts, and I picked my two best, the ones that I thought were gonna do the best, and they did okay. They did just fine. And then I had this third one, this quick cut down of Early Access Matrix, that was essentially a throwaway, and I was like, well, I might as well post it because it's free stuff. And then my other 2 shorts each got like 15,000 and 45,000 views, and then I checked this one after the weekend, and it was at like 6,500,000 after like 3 days.
6,500,000.
Yeah,
I love the way you say that.
6,500,000. 6?
650,000.
650.
6,500,000 is
big numbers
6.5
slow is
million.
hard.
Well, the longest lightsaber video also popped off.
Yeah.
It popped off so hard.
So hard.
Last I checked, that was sitting at 6,500,000 views, which is 6.5 million.
Dude,
It's at 7.3 actually.
Oh my God, Jesus.
Yeah,
But the original short also is sitting at almost 200 million views on YouTube. So I was like, I wonder if this will translate. And I specifically chose the thumbnail of the lightsaber hitting the airplane. And it's literally just a shot from the thing. It's not like a Photoshopped thumbnail like the original video, but something about that just gets views like crazy.
dude, and I like, for my other shorts, I like made thumbnails, and I was like, I really thought about it. For this one, I just went with the automatic thumbnail.
The automatically chosen one? Okay.
Dude, yeah. Sometimes
It hits.
sometimes it just hits.
There's something about like you can tell when it's automatically chosen, and when it's a good thumbnail that's automatically chosen, you're like, okay, that's an authentic video I'm about to watch.
Yeah, shorts are weird. The scale of the analytics for shorts is just bananas, because like we almost never see with a long form YouTube video like Longest Lightsaber went from like 500,000 to 4 million in like a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just have these crazy like ramps and level offs that happen sometimes over the course of like hours.
Especially for the Corridor channel, where I don't really pay attention to those metrics frequently, and so it's like, okay, yeah, this video is doing all right. And then I check back in a couple months later, I was like, what happened? Everyone watched it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, YouTube's weird, man, especially on a channel that's over almost 15 years old with a very infrequent upload schedule. But yeah, we do need to do a YouTube short for Potion Overdose. We haven't done any shorts for any of the anime videos.
Damn.
There's a whole bunch. There's a lot. I kind of want to keep doing shorts for like an extended period of time. It's just nice to get them all back out there.
Well, I got those Animoji shorts uploaded and scheduled. One went out yesterday. One should have gone out today. Actually, no, the third one should have gone out today.
Yeah, there's 3 currently out.
And your first one, Ren, your first one brought in 9 subscribers.
Yeah.
Second one brought in 3. Nice, we're not losing them. And your third one's not out. Wait. Oh, it just went live? Oh, nice. And your third one, 0. Oh yeah, Kittens on the Beat. I mean, there's so many. There's so many shorts. We got Assassin's Creed shorts. We got DayZ shorts. We got lots of stuff.
Yeah, so Gallium video is going to probably just come out this Sunday. It was supposed to come out today, but we still have to film all the talking head stuff for it, so it couldn't come out today. What does Gallium taste like? It doesn't taste as metallic as you're thinking. I'll put it that way.
But it smells exactly like the monkey bars at the playground.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
okay.
like barbell. Like it just has that like it has a really strong iron
Dude,
smell.
Okay, so speaking of smells,
Oh boy.
Griffin.
Oh boy.
Was it you, me, and Daniel, or was it you, me, and Austin in
It
the
was
kitchen?
you, me, and Austin.
So we're about to go play Smash, and you're standing over there kind of in the corner, and you're like, is it just me, or does it smell like dead right here? Something rotting? And I walk over, and I'm like, no, that just smells like spices. And I'm like leaning down at the spice rack. My face is like an inch away from the spice rack, and I'm looking around. I'm like, giving a nice big deep breath. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it smells kind of funny, but I think it's just spices that I'm smelling. And as like you guys are starting to walk away towards the Smash room, I move the bag of chips on top of the shelf, and there's a dead rat in a mouse trap right there on top of the shelf. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's what you were smelling, Griffin. And it was like one of those shelves that is just a bunch of planks, and there's like an inch gap between each plank. And so, yeah.
Also, I was like, hold up, the Smash room? You need to clarify what you mean by the Smash room.
You know, where we go smash. It's you know, where we film all the debunk videos, all of our like reactions to like films that we've made and stuff like that. But primarily it's where we play Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah. Literally, primarily. Yeah.
But yeah, so then I threw it away and I came back and I sniffed it again, and the actual death and rotting scent was so much more pungent. I immediately just gagged and I almost vomited right then and there. And I was like, is that just me acknowledging in my head that what I'm smelling is death and that's making me gag? And it was the same smell as before, or was it actually stronger?
No, actually, I think it's instinctual, because there was a rabbit that got a little torn up by an owl in my yard like a long time. This is like 20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I was like, well, I gotta clean this up, and you know, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, you've seen roadkill. It wasn't that
Yeah,
crazy.
but I don't deal with roadkill.
Well, whatever. It's like, it wasn't something that was like grisly to look at, right? It was just a dead rabbit. It wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't like, you know, crucified or anything like that, right? It wasn't super gross. But there's a smell coming from it, and you know, I'm like going and cleaning it up, and like I get a whiff of the smell as I'm picking it up, and just immediately I'm like, and I threw up. It was really weird. Like I didn't feel sick. The smell wasn't particularly like gross or anything like that. It was just like this instant response. It's like, man, that's the thing that's been wired in me. That's like not part of my like logic side. Like there's some like old animal instincts there.
Yeah, well, and that's the same way that I recognized it as like the smell of death, because like if you're wondering like oh like that wait, Griffin just knows what a dead body smells like no, don't worry about that. But it's like, spoiler alert, like decaying creature just kind of smells like dookie. But like there is some like pre-caveman, like there's something in your brain that's just like dead thing, like there's a dead thing nearby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do still think it was just way stronger once I actually moved the mousetrap and like the actual spot that I was sitting on was exposed. But yeah, that was really gross.
Yeah.
That was really gross.
Yeah.
YouTube isn't always glamorous.
You guys want to hear about a video that's coming out that you guys have not heard of yet? You guys have heard of it. I'm talking to that.
Dude, okay, so let me preamble that a little bit, Niko. None of us knew. Niko had a video plan none of us knew about, and Tuesday we came in and slowly Niko rolled out this. We all had to go in one at a time to do this thing. None of us have any idea what's going on, and Niko, I think you knocked it out of the park.
Oh, thank you.
It was really cool.
Baseball metaphor.
For our Cornish friends.
For our Cornish friends, yes. Okay, so doing like challenge videos or test videos, movie test videos, like you guys are familiar with Jake's Batman hiding video. It's one of the funniest videos on the channel.
Still one of the best moments I've experienced.
It's very, very hard to do those videos at this point because everybody in the office is very savvy, very aware when anybody is acting different because they're on camera. Everybody's very aware of camera. Like, it is almost impossible to trick people into the office. And there was a video that I've been wanting to do for the longest time. And I've had the idea, and like numerous times we'll be doing our brainstorms, and I'll be like, oh guys, there's one video that I can't talk about. And the idea was this. So if you're watching any Spider-Man movie, there's always a scene where he's in his bedroom, someone comes in looking for him, and he has to jump up on the wall above the door and hide. And he's on the ceiling, and the person walks around the room, and they don't look up, and they walk out of the room, and he gets away. And I was like, people are going to look up. You can feel it when somebody's eyes are on you, right? You're just going to, oh, there's a person right there. You just glance up. So I was like, okay, how can I test this? Well, if I could get somebody to set up a wire rig, I could be in the studio, get people to come down the hallway, and then wire myself up to the ceiling above the door and see if they come to the studio and can find me. Okay, that was the rough idea. But now the question is, how do I get them to be looking for me? How do I get them to be in the hallway? How do I get them to, like, not suspect that I'm about to pull a Spider-Man prank on them when I'm halfway in the doorway saying, come get me? Yeah. So we had all these problems to solve. And of course, the question is like, can we even do the wire gag at all? Because when you're going to pull somebody up with the wire, you have another one or two people on the other end of a pulley that are pulling down. And so we needed to hide them as well. It's like, how am I going to do all this? So it all started with the Gray Matter sequel. And I was building these big black curtained walls that were secretly also doubling as hiding
Was that the
spots.
plan from the beginning?
No.
It was actually a little bit of the plan from the beginning.
Okay, guys, our studio has been covered in trash for the last 2 weeks. Covered in trash. And we've had these giant, like, 15-foot curtains just surrounding the whole studio. It's been, like, cramped. All of our stuff has have to be pushed to the side. It's been a whole thing.
So as we were building these curtains, I'm like, this is going to work great for doing the hiding spot for the Spider-Man video. Let's make that happen also simultaneously. So we started working on both videos at the same time. And then I started spreading the rumor that we were going to do a John Wick Olympics challenge, which you've already done a Keanu Reeves Olympics challenge. So I had to be careful not to say Keanu Reeves. And the thing is, I wanted people to hunt me as if they were henchmen and they're coming after Spider-Man with their Nerf gun. So the idea was we're going to set up a fake Olympics tryouts for a John Wick Olympics video. And we're going to set people up in the loading dock. We're going to give them Nerf guns. We're going to have them stylishly shoot 2 henchmen before they see me in the hallway. I will taunt them, and then I'll go into the studio, and they'll come after me. And so that was the idea, and it worked out great. People were fully into it. They had their Nerf guns. They were like, oh, I'm going to go get them. I'm going to go get Niko. And they're coming down the hallway. And then as they enter the studio, I dip outside the door. I immediately rappel up the wall.
Above the door, by the way.
Above the door.
The front door next to, like, the big carbon fiber corridor logo that's there.
Oh, and I should add, to sell this John Wick effect in this John Wick Olympics, it starts actually with me in a trench coat, standing out there giving a speech to the contestants saying, welcome to the John Wick, trials. We're going to be having squirt guns. You'll have Nerf guns. You show us what you got. And then I walk away. And underneath that trench coat is a Spider-Man costume and a harness.
Party City Spider-Man.
Party City Spider-Man, which they can't see. So then I go into the studio, I immediately throw the trench coat off, take my sunglasses off, grab the silly string, throw the squirt gun away, get harnessed, or get wired in, get the carabiner clipped, and then make eye contact with Nick all the way down the hallway, give him a little nod. Once he sees that, he starts, okay, I'm done recording cameras. Okay, go. And then I'm in the doorway, squirting the squirt gun. They come down the hallway, and then I dip out of sight and immediately rappel up the wall. And the way it's set up in the studio
Rappel
is
up the wall.
I had speakers blasting some like John Wick dark wave so that people can't hear the cable. They can't hear the guys pulling on it. And then we have the curtains set up from Gray Matter 2, hiding them. And then I had a spotlight set right in front of them, in front of a crack in the curtains at full brightness pointed at the doorway. So whoever's in the doorway couldn't see them staring right back at them. Because the whole time they're standing there completely open in the curtains watching the whole thing play out. But you can't see beyond the bright spotlight, but they're just right behind it.
Wow, I didn't realize that part.
Yeah.
I was wondering where the pull guy was.
Yeah, and then they could see you the whole
Pull,
time.
Pull.
And let's just say that it worked 100% of the time. Not a single person caught me. Not a single person looked up. To the point where with Austin, we actually lowered me back down onto the ground behind him. And he stops. He starts reloading his gun. He literally takes a knee right beside me. And he does not look up at me. I'm standing right beside him in a red and blue Spider-Man costume. And then he walks away from me. And I sprayed him with silly string as he walked away.
So to add on to that, Jan just finished playing the Batman VR game that came out recently, which apparently is really good. I've been wanting to try it. I haven't had a chance yet. But in this game, apparently it's an actual mechanic where a bunch of guys are about to rush into a room and you can grapple up to the ceiling. Literally just shoot your little grapple hook up and it pulls you up there. And his response to that was like, this is so unrealistic. Like he's now hovering above the doorway as henchmen flood into the room, and he's like, how do they not see me? This is so unrealistic. And literally the next day he comes and does this challenge with us and is completely demonstrated to be true.
Yep. And the funny, I felt bad because I had to lie to Jan and tell him it was a John Wick Olympics, when in reality it was, can Jan not get killed by Spider-Man Olympics? But it's nice to have that inner test. Would you pass the Spider-Man challenge if you had to go hunt him down as a henchman? No. We'd all lose. Spider-Man would get all of us.
I just remember in my own head, it was, there was no possibility of you being, because I was thinking kind of embarrassingly hard about everywhere you could have been in there. I was checking through like the door crack. I was like, oh, he's gonna be hiding.
I think we
behind
all
the door.
checked through the door crack.
And you're just like, okay, there could be a person there. Cool. Like you just like assess the situation. You're like, at no point are you like, people are up there. There's people.
Well, it's because we also just subconsciously know and understand that you can't just go up above the door there. There's no platform, there's no ladder, there's no way to get up there. Unless you have a harness that you install, like a whole wire system you install over the weekend without anyone knowing about it. And yeah, so it was just, it never crossed my mind. You didn't like make a noise enough for me to notice. I, meanwhile, spent most of my time distracted over a frickin' door
Carrying him at the door.
that I was trying to like use as a shield.
I was wondering what you're like. I'm watching you like, what's he carrying? What's he doing? Is that a door? Oh, he's using it for cover. Too bad he's not holding it above his head.
Yeah, I know.
That's very John Wick would definitely like. 1 second. Yeah.
I
Bring it
almost
forward.
actually got you though, Niko, because like you said your one-liner before actually spraying me, and that made me look, and I see you up there, and I turned and shot, and I think I just barely missed you.
You may have hit me.
I think I missed. I think I remember like missing, but it was very close, and just enough of your silly string hit me that you got me.
I figured once the one-liner comes out, regardless of whether I get shot, I've won.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think for you, I think I said, looking for something, should have searched the web. Yeah, this video should come out in about 2 or 3 weeks, by the way, on the Corridor Crew channel. So
Yeah.
It's bizarre to get like a full Corridor Crew video made in a day.
I know, it's very satisfying.
Considering like
Yeah.
we have 2 big crew videos in production that have been in production for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this Gallium video, I feel like I've been working on forever until I remember that the location stealing video has been in production since before I started working on the Minecraft video.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Like that was the reason why I did Minecraft instead of doing a Gaussian splat from video games video, because Sam was doing the Gaussian splat video. And I was like, okay,
yeah.
true scale of video games. And then I found myself enamored by Minecraft, and that's what Austin and I did.
Yeah, that Minecraft video turned out so good. I don't know how much we can talk about Sam's Gaussian Splat videos, but the stealing locations video is a really interesting idea, which is, does anybody actually own a location? Like, can you go and 3D model a space?
I mean, obviously you can own a location, but can you
Right.
steal a location? Because
Right.
no one, when you think of stealing a location, you think of like digging it up out of the ground and taking it with you or something.
Right.
It's like, oh, you wouldn't download a car. It's like, if I could, I would.
Yeah. And like, but you also like, can you actually claim ownership over like the representation of an interior space? You know, if somebody goes in and 3D scans your living room, if somebody makes a copy of your living room in their living room because they liked the style of your living room and they ordered the same furniture, like, do you really own that space? If you go on a location scout, you take some pictures of the background location, do they need to give you clearance if you use those for VFX plates later on? Like, you know, there's all these questions around it. So that's one thing that Sam's exploring, because we're getting to the point with technology where we can recreate locations. But then there's another video he's making, Corridor video.
Is very cool.
It's very cool.
Very
and
cool.
unlike anything anybody's ever seen before. Not to hype it up too much.
But yeah, it's using Gaussian splats in a way that's very, very cool. I think when it comes out, people will take notice of it, especially people in the sort of VFX industry that like are familiar with splats and nerfs and stuff like that. They're going to be like, okay, see, this is how this can be used.
So it's one of those things where like you see it, you're like, oh, this looks great. Why doesn't anybody else use it like this?
Dude, there's just the one shot he posted of like moving a tree aside. That's all I'll say. It's not like the most seamless effect, but like it perfectly conveys what you can do in this video, and I loved it so much. It's so well done.
Yeah.
And it's still, there's still a lot of work left to do on it, but it's an actual legit like Corridor digital like short film. So it's pretty sick. It reminds me a lot of Superman with a GoPro.
Yeah, same.
It's almost a spiritual
little bit of real
successor, but it's
GTA.
not. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping to actually do a little bit of work on it because obviously I'm wrapping up this Gallium video, but like I actually want to work on some of the visual effects in this thing.
Yeah.
But I won't be able to do that until next week.
Well, we're getting to the kind of the end of our podcast here, but I wanted to turn the topic over to music for a second here. because I spent the past 2 weeks trying to write a song every day. And I'm not a songwriter, and I only learned how to play piano like 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago. I played drums for a while before that, but like, don't know how to write songs. Very much the songs I've written are bad. But it was one of those, like, just every day, how much time I have, play a chord progression, play a melody, put a drum line. I'm using GarageBand. I'm using, like, they have AI drums, which basically just gives you a nice drum line right off the bat. You can do AI bass line, AI keyboardist if you want. And I'm just taking what I get within 20 minutes of work each night.
But like, you finish it. You have an actual, like, I know the next step you're getting to, but just like to preface that a little bit, it kind of goes back to the quantity over quality thing I always talk about. It's like, if you want to get better at something, make as much of it as you can rather than trying to like perfect the thing you're doing. Because with quantity comes quality. Right. So even if you're not doing the second half of this process that you're about to talk about, that is still a great way to get good at music. It's just like, make a song. It's going to be bad, but at least you made something and you can learn from it and move on.
Yep.
So what did you do with these little janky songs?
So I got these little janky songs, little GarageBand songs. And you listen to them, you're like, that's a GarageBand song. You can just hear it. So I've been taking the songs and then bringing them into Suno. They have this new feature called Cover, where you can add a song and then have it basically do... So remember anime rock, paper, scissors? We filmed ourselves. We did all the acting. We did all the, quote unquote animation, aka the acting, all that stuff. And then we filtered it, right? We put a filter on top of it to change the look to look like it was drawn. And that's kind of what this is doing for audio, where you make the song, you write your melodies, you make the rhythms, you write the whole song, you bring it through Suno, and Suno basically just filters it to be like, okay, but what if the song was an 80s synthwave bop, And it's the same melodies, the same rhythms, but suddenly it's as if you had set up all your instruments differently, you had set up your synths differently, you had mixed it, you had done, bouncing out to subtracks to do like all
that good vocal artist.
Yeah, it's basically like, it's as if you gave your song to somebody and it's like, hey, please, Mr. Producer, could you spend a couple days doing all the tricks you do to eventually make something sound polished and good?
Where they'll be like, okay, these are the notes you hit. I'm going to literally re-perform the song on my nice piano with my nice equipment, but I'm still like doing the notes in the order and the rhythm that you put them in.
Yep, exactly. So I'll do that, and Suno will give me like a bunch of really cool versions of the songs I make. And then I'll take maybe 2 or 3 favorite ones, bring them back into GarageBand, split out the stems if I need to, so I'll just pull out a drum line or pull out the vocals, and then re-edit that back into my song. Because Suno doesn't really give you a very good structure. It just kind of gives you like reimagined versions of your stuff. And then I've been basically making pop songs, synth pop songs, like from 20-minute GarageBand sessions. Just like bonk it out. It sounds like crap. Run it through Suno. Bring it back in. Sounds awesome. And like it's still, it's still got a bit of that AI jank or whatever, that, the fuzz of the low quality filter vibes. But what? I don't care. I'm not giving it to anybody else. It's cool to like instantly hear my music like imagined as if I like spent time on it and made it good, which and it's not worth doing when they're like 20-minute songs.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's like most people think of generative AI with images as like you write a text prompt and it generates an image from that. And that's been around for music a little bit now, for like a year or so, where it's like you write a text prompt and it generates a song. But what you're specifically talking about is basically taking a pre-existing song and it's doing a cover of it. So it's like, that's kind of like image to image, except it's audio to audio. I called it wave to wave.
Wave to wave, exactly. Yeah, it's image to image for audio, and it's really, really great. And it's really, really nice. It's awesome for like hearing ideas. It's awesome for like being like, oh, I want to do this like synth mix. It's going to take me like 5 hours to build it out. And you can just get like 3 or 4 variations. Like, okay, that sounds close enough for me just to be able to enjoy and put into my song. It's been really fun. And the reason I kind of bring this up, outside the fact that I've just been really into it, is, Griffin, you were talking to me a little bit about music recently and how you kind of changed your attitude on it, kind of into the sense of like taking pressure away from it. And I kind of wanted to hear you talk about that a little bit, because it's like, I feel like that's another like really important side of being creative and like how you pressure yourself to do things.
Yeah. So I've pretty much been taking an indeterminate amount of time off of drawing and making music. And like, obviously, when it's for work, like I'm still doing my job. Like I made the Simpsons shirt, but I really realized that there was so much of my motivation behind drawing or working on music was just this sense of like, oh, well, that's something I need to keep up with. It was driven by like guilt for not doing it. So it got to the point where like anytime I had free time in my schedule that I wasn't like creating, I felt awful. Even if it's like, oh well, this is like the 1 hour of this whole day where I can just like sit and chill. I was like, oh, but I'm not making like a masterpiece. I'm a failure. And I've since taken, yeah, like I quit art and music with no plan to come back. And I've found it's like super helpful because yeah, I just got to the point where I was like, the whole reason I did this stuff was because it felt good. And now I'm only doing it because it feels bad. So I'm doing it like it's literally backwards. And
Yeah.
I think that's, something where if anyone is feeling like too much like pressure to create, like literally quit.
Yeah.
Like literally quit for a little bit. Maybe it's a week or two, but like I'm already starting to feel like the genuine curiosity and drive start to come back. The like, oh yeah, what if I made like synth pop song? Like, oh, I have this idea for like a melody, and it's just like that pure fun is kind of starting to come back. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And if that never comes back, it's like, oh, maybe I just didn't want to do that anymore. Maybe I didn't want to do it. So
No, like I feel like when you mentioned it to me, like it really stuck with me. Like this idea of being like, I don't like, because I think we all have the pressure to like produce things and to make things. Like that's what we do for a living, And like when I go home and it's like 8 o'clock at night and the kids have finally fallen asleep, and like I'm sitting there, it's like I gotta do something in my free time. I gotta use it. I gotta do something. It's like, what if I just didn't do anything? What if I just sat here and was unproductive for an hour or two? It's like, is that the end of the world? It's like, turns out it's actually a really like healthy thing to
I'm
just
pretty good at
embrace.
that. I'm pretty good at just turning it all off and being like, I'm just going to waste some time here. No big deal.
It's super important. And taking that pressure off of art, and like, because a lot of people have been freaking out over generative AI in art, and I feel like a lot of it is really being driven by discourse and rhetoric and people making videos to whip up emotions to get more views. The reality of, I think, generative art or generative AI in art is a little bit different than what people say. But the reality is it's getting easier and easier to make things. And that's across the board, regardless of whether or not AI exists. Like, it's getting easier to film things. It's getting easier to draw things. It's getting, like, you can print things. Like, it's just easy to make things now. All kinds of art are getting easier. It's easy to make music. It's easy to make everything. And, like, the easiest thing to make is a book, right? You just write. You just sit down and put words out on a piece of paper. The second easiest thing to make is maybe drawing. You grab a pencil and just scratching on a piece of paper and you got a drawing. And it's the idea of like taking a break and worrying less about productivity with art and being a creative and like not having to make something kind of, I feel like, returns to the core of why it all exists in the first place. It gets rid of the things that don't matter. Like music is not an industry first and foremost. Like movies should not be an industry first and foremost. First and foremost, it's an art form. And an art form is not about money. It's about doing it because you like to do it and you want to do it and other people like it and want to do it too. And so like giving yourself permission to be like, I'm not going to worry about making music right now. And just letting your body tell you if it wants to do it and being open to that, but otherwise not forcing it. It's just like, I don't know, it just seemed like a very wise decision, a very wise move.
Here's a comment I kind of want to get your opinion on, Niko. It says, you're not learning how to mix, how to perform better, or get closer to a final product on your own. It's just personal artistic expression, so whatever. But if your goal is to be a good musician, be very careful.
Well, does being a good musician come down to how you mix? Does it come down to how polished your final product is? Because that's not at all what I think music is. I think some of the best music is some of the simplest music. I think music is just really another avenue for performance, to tell stories, to inspire emotions, and to say something or be something, you evoke something, whether it's through pure notes or it's through singing. But I will say, like, when we got into filmmaking, a lot of what I relied on to distinguish myself as a filmmaker was technical polish and technical skills that other people didn't have. not on the message or creativity itself. Like, how cool is the thing? How much did it make me feel something? I was like, oh wow, that looked really expensive. Oh wow, that's a really cool effect that I don't know how to do.
Which was a big calling card for the early days of
It was a
Corridor.
big calling. It certainly was. And it's still like the effort calling card still exists and the technical skill calling card still exists. But I think after having done this for so long, those aren't really the calling cards you want. How good is your mix? How good is your color grade? How, whatever. How technically polished is your stuff? Technical polish is nice to have, and it can certainly make something more appealing. But it's the difference between like aesthetic versus like meaning. Does your piece look pretty, or does it mean something? And I'm not putting points into pretty anymore. I don't care. Like, I don't care about aesthetic. I don't care about pretty. I care about, does it actually do what I want it to do? And that's where my mind's at with it. So,
well, and I think kind of to like not a rebuttal, but to like expand on both of your points, like sitting down and like working on mixing yourself, working on improving performances, like, as things get more automated, because like you can already, like, there's already plugins that will just like AI auto master or AI auto mix your track in your DAW. But when you experiment with mixing yourself, you can get more into the creative side and the mindset of mixing. You can get into like, oh, how does using like this certain reverb tone create a certain effect, or like how does my panning affect the vision? And then like, yeah, working on your own performance, like that one's pretty self-explanatory, but it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, we have the tools to do this automatically now, maybe, but if you practice it the older ways, you will unlock more things that you can use yourself. And like understanding not just knowing, but understanding the principles behind things really helps you when you have the automatic tools too. So I think I think that kind of goes with both of your points about.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. Like, the things go as deep as you want them to go. And, there's all these amazing things you can learn when you delve to those depths, whether it's into mixing or into instrument creation, or even like, people that program and make their own synths, where it's like, let me just patch these cables into here and get this oscillator over here, versus just like downloading a sound pack of samples and calling it a day. And that stuff's all really awesome because it really can let you expand upon things. And one thing that I've left out in this conversation, like, if you're truly trying to make art that moves other people, there is a lot to be said for novelty. And when you are using something that's AI based, it doesn't have novelty. Yeah. You have to bring the novelty in some other way. So whether it's your writing or your notes, your lyrics, your melodies, or the sounds you're using, whatever it is, like, you bring that novelty is super important. Because AI is by definition formulaic, and some formulaic stuff is nice. It's like with this, the music stuff, the Suno stuff, I'm actually not really trying to bring much novelty to it right now. Though it's really easy to bring novelty through lyrics and doing fun stuff.
I think right now just the process itself is still novel.
Yeah, the process itself is novel, and for me, it's like, I just want to hear a song. I want to make a song and hear a song, and it have that fun dopamine hit of like, oh, that's fun. I like that, and that's all it is right now, But I'm also like nuanced enough as an artist to be like, and that's not working, and that's not working, and I would need to fix that, and I would need to do that differently. Like, I can see all the shortcomings too.
It also helps that you're already a pretty decent musician, Niko. Like, most people don't know this, but like, we do a lot of one-roll rides, and on these rides, especially lately, we've been bringing instruments and stuff out on them.
We're in the jam phase.
But like, you've been doing this for a while. I'll never forget this one ride we did like 2 years ago or so. You brought your full clarinet.
That's right.
And we're up in the middle of Griffith Park at midnight, and you're just riding down the trail. And for the last like several months or so, you've had what is it called? This little like
a melodica.
A melodica. It's essentially a little keyboard harmonica type thing. You blow into it like a harmonica, but then it actually has like a piano keyboard. And you're very proficient with this. You understand like how like notes work, keys, and all this stuff. Alex, our buddy Alex, was trying to do the Office theme song on the harmonica. And within like a minute, you had already got the whole song playing on your melodica.
To be fair, I did learn the song beforehand.
Before, like a while beforehand.
A while beforehand, yeah.
So, but still, like, I'm just saying is that like that's a degree of skill that is already pretty high above the average. Just like as a baseline.
That's true. I look forward to you and Jan and Alex discovering the world of like keys and intervals and note structure and chord progressions.
As far as music is concerned, I'm definitely way more into the technical side of things. Like I'm really into like the synthesizer, not the synthesizers, but like what do you call, what's the word, like, where you actually modify and tune the sound signals coming
Modulation?
modulating, yeah, pedal type work. Like I'm really into that. That's the type of like where you're turning the dials to change like the amount of reverb or the delay and all that stuff. It's like I can get behind that type of music, but like actually being able to like hit some keys on a piano to be like, yeah, this sounds better than that. I can do that a very minor bit, but then I have more enjoyment out of changing the type of sound that comes out of that.
Yeah.
Dude, you should just, you're already like 75% of the way to being a noise musician. Then. Just like, if you just like messing with sounds and like changing dude, just get a white noise oscillator and some guitar pedals.
That's kind of what I've been into. I feel like I've always had a decent grasp of rhythm from my early days of but like going back to my early days of editing when I just intuitively understood cutting on the beat. You know, editing a video is like, okay, here's a musical hit, have that video cut right there, and playing years of Guitar Hero and Beat Saber and whatnot. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's still kind of different than actually being a musician and playing music. I think I was mentioning this to you like a couple weeks ago, is like with the Suno, and to be clear, it's SUNO. For the longest time, I thought it was like sumo.
Oh.
like a sumo wrestler. I think, and this is kind of going back to the AI generated art too, is that like making music for the sake of making music is starting to kind of go downwards, whereas like the act of making music is more about the performance and the love of doing it rather than like trying to get an output that's usable. Like, oh, I need to make a song for this 30-second commercial spot thing here.
Right.
That's a whole industry of jobs right now when you can literally just type in a prompt and have like a song that is spat out pretty much exactly as you need it. I'm oversimplifying, of course, but you know, I'm also not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just kind of like observing that creating the act of making art is starting to become more and more about the love of the art, rather than the industrial need for it.
Yeah, which is really interesting. And like on one hand, that's I feel like that's making art better, but on the other hand, you have artists who are trying to make a living. And so it's this really weird dichotomy.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's a really weird dichotomy. I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I feel like all the other mediums of art are just more and more going to become like the writing industry, you know, with authors making books, you know?
I'm not following.
Where there's no technical hurdles. It's all about the creator.
Sure. Okay. Interesting.
And it's all about ideas. It's about what you make. It's about the piece itself. It's not about what lens you shot on. It's not about how high res your camera is. It's not about how long your effect shot took. None of that will matter. It's just, how's the actual product? Is it good? Is it fun? Do I like it? Yeah.
Which is to say, like, and I know you obviously mean this, but like writing a novel is still just as hard as it was back in the Quill era. But it's like, cool, you got a Google Doc now, dude. You don't have to worry about your inkwell running out. Like, you just got a Google Doc.
Yep. It's just a reminder that like it's, you know, you can keep polishing those turds, but like it's it's really about the ideas and getting the ideas out until you like those get good. You can technically proficiently polish something and make it feel nice, but yeah, but as an artist, that's the safe area. Like the technical skill is the safe area. Where it's like, oh, I know I can color grade it and make it look nice. You know, I don't know if the lines are going to be any good or if it's going to make me feel anything emotionally, but I can light it nice and I can shoot it nice and I can do some photoreal CG on it. You know, it's like, at least that part's safe. And as an artist, I know I can always do that, you know?
And I think as a visual artist, like the kind of rise of generative AI, like my thought process changed a lot over time, but kind of where I landed on it. And this is, again, like, I'm not going to really get into the industry and the profession area of it too much, but it's like related. Like at the end of the day, what I realized was like, if you think oil painting is the coolest thing in the world, like keep doing it.
Yeah.
'Cause like you're still going to think it's the coolest thing in the world, and there's still going to be people who think it's the coolest thing in the world and want to look at your oil paintings.
Yeah.
Like, don't like just, there was, if you listen too much to Twitter, like you got into a headspace where you're like, oh, like all art ever is going to be from now on is just like make painting of cat. And it's like, no, dude, like if you're a printmaker, like keep making prints. Like people are still going to be into your prints for all the reasons you're into making them. Keep drawing, keep painting, keep playing in a band. Like you don't have to use Suno if you don't, it's like,
Yeah.
so
Keep doing it.
it's, yeah.
And the pendulum's definitely swinging away from like intangible media, like TikToks, towards tangible entertainment, which is live performance, real people having a discussion, like where it's less about just content, and more like I need a human to give me their human time so I can enjoy it in return.
And like bands, like
Bands,
like
I
there
can't
was
wait for bands to come back.
bands are back, dude. Like especially because yeah, like there was so much like with the EDM, like the height of the EDM craze, the height of rap,
Bands are back unless you're Pendulum.
unless you're yeah.
Boy, that was a show, wasn't it?
It was. I enjoyed it, but it was just not Pendulum.
They're good DJs, but
But they like. Sorry, that was a random ass tangent. I went and saw Pendulum back in September. One of my favorite bands. Love them so much. But it was a Pendulum DJ set, and the 3 original members of Pendulum were there. But they spent 85% of their time playing other artists' songs, and they played like 3 or 4 Pendulum tracks,
Yeah.
and that was like, well.
They
I was
didn't,
hoping
they
to,
didn't
like-
actually perform anything either. They stood there.
Yeah, they just it was kind of
Not even
It was a fun night.
heap of singing. I got one like, come on, see your hands in the air. I got one of those.
But yeah, bands are back.
dude, one of the best DJ moments of my entire life was last year. I saw Pendulum play live at a festival, and
Wait, did you really?
yeah, DJ live. I had to see them DJ live, which wasn't a problem for me because I was a fan of their not their live, and that was a fan of their early work. Shout out to Tarantula. But they played a DJ set, and then right after that, I think it was like Benny Benassi was up next. And like, I'm not like a huge Benny Benassi fan, but I was like, when in Rome, like dude, how often are you gonna get to you're already here? And Benny Benassi was just like bringing the energy, and boy, that lovely Italian man just he kept just shouting like, California, this is the vibe of California, we're doing this together, California. I just kept screaming California, like, together we are doing this together.
All right, Benny.
It was the best. It was the best DJ energy I've ever seen.
Oh man,
Just speaking of random DJ shoutings.
good stuff. All right, everybody, we're going to end the podcast there. We're going to continue our live show here on CorridorDigital.com. Hang out for a little bit longer, do our after party. But for those of you listening on YouTube, Spotify, and everywhere else, thank you so much for joining us. Consider checking out the Sims shirt. It's a parody on the game The Sims, but it's all your favorite VFX Sims. It's one of those solid VFX artist puns, niche VFX t-shirts. You can't find them anywhere else than CorridorDigital.store. And I think it'll be in the store for like 4 more days. Depends on when this podcast comes out.
I think it's on
Basically, end of the weekend.
the 11th.
So if you're listening to this on the weekend, you're running out of time. Okay, not to stress you out. I'm sorry.
Thanks for listening, everyone, or
Enjoy
watching.
your day. Bye.
And 3, 2, 1. Ah!